For my EDU project, one of the technology tools that I selected was Poll Everywhere, and my lesson was on Shakespeare or rap over iambic pentameter. I picked Poll Everywhere because I thought this was the best way to both grab the attention of my students in a format that they would love and provide them with an assessment where there was immediate feedback for myself and them. Shakespeare oftentimes feels out of date to the students, but pulling them in with a presentation and video supporting how in touch Shakespeare is to their lives through the use of Poll Everywhere seemed like a great opportunity. The students could use technology and draw connections to their own lives. The students could also express what they learned within the class period, and I could as well assess my teaching. I'm going to quickly go over a brief lesson plan description, and then I will show you the PowerPoint that I used along with some video clips and walk you through how to use Poll Everywhere and what I did. For my lesson plan, students participated in a lecture over iambic pentameter through both note-taking and Poll Everywhere. The students followed along with a PowerPoint as I lectured, and then they watched video clips throughout the PowerPoint. The purpose of the first video clip, which I will show you, is to grab the attention of the audience. The video clip first will load through YouTube. And let me go to a section. Let's see.
You're going to tell me by show of hands whether you think it's hip hop or Shakespeare. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first one we'll go for is to destroy the beauty from which one came. To destroy the beauty from which one came.
And then the students had to select whether or not they thought that quote was from Shakespeare or from hip-hop. So you will go to, if you want to set up a Poll Everywhere, you will go to www.polleverywhere.com. This is a screen that will come up. You can go to create your first poll and it'll walk you through everything. I'm already logged in, so up here, to destroy the beauty from which one came is what the students had to guess if it was Shakespeare or hip-hop. So the students need to text to the phone number 37607. And if they think that this line, to destroy the beauty from which one came, is Shakespeare, then the number that they would text in is 108767. If they think it is hip-hop, the students will text in 108856. And this is actually fairly quick. I am going to go into my text messages right now, and for the phone number, I will send it to the number 37607, and I'm going to guess that this line, to destroy the beauty from which one came, was Shakespeare. So I will text the number 108767. I'll send it right now so you can see how fast it actually comes up, and then it will pop up just like that. So on the bottom one, it tells you how many votes were submitted. Since I'm the only one voting right now, it will have a 1. That 1 lets you know just one voter sent in, so 100% of the votes are voting that it is Shakespeare. If you want to edit the question, you just go to the edit bar, and then you would change the question right in here, and then your answers. You can select however many answers you would like. And then after making, let's see, say we were going to guess if it was from Romeo and Juliet, or if you wanted hip-hop or you wanted Hamlet. So you're getting more specific. Save poll, and then 3 choices would come up, and you would still have the same type of, and this would still be similar to what we just did. If you want to clear the results from class to class, you'll hit clear results. They disappear. Stop the poll. You can start it again. And then you can delete the questions here, copy a question, And then how people can respond. They can respond through text message, web device. So if students didn't have cell phones, you can go into the lab and do this lesson. And then students who did could text. Other ones could use computers. Could also tweet. And then you could download this as a slide if you were going to present your results to another class or possibly to other teachers within the building. And then if you go back to my polls, you could see my next question. So after I showed the question to the students and they sent in their vote, then we went back to the video. And students continue to watch.
I think that's hip hop. Raise your hands, please. I think that's Shakespeare. Raise your hands, please. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, about 70% towards Shakespeare. It's from a gentleman known as Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, from a track called Can I Live? We'll go for another one. Maybe it's hatred I spew, maybe it's food for the spirit. Maybe it's hatred I spew, maybe it's food for the spirit.
Okay, then I would go back to my poll everywhere. Students would once again vote. And then the bars would show up 83%, 17%, and this was just a very small amount of people that I had sent this in as an example, so 5. After the students participated in the poll, then they went back to taking notes and watched the PowerPoint presentation, as well as a few more video clips explaining iambic pentameter. I created another poll for my students where they need to submit answers to a practice quiz at the end. This provided instant data for me. I would understand how much information my students were able to grasp, and it was also an evaluation for the students to assess their own learning and know what they needed to study for the test. Later, students were asked to implement their own use of Poll Everywhere in a research project where they will be teaching about a Shakespearean topic to the class. After they present their topic to the class, they will have to have a small quiz on Poll Everywhere so they can see what they actually taught students, and then that holds the students in the classroom accountable for what the presenter is presenting on. As far as technology, not a whole lot is needed. In the case of my lesson plan, I used a smartboard because I wanted students to see the results instantly. I also had my PowerPoint presentation going on there, and I needed Real Player because I had video clips. But just to use Poll Everywhere, you only need a network that allows access to Poll Everywhere's URL. And to quickly show you the PowerPoint that I showed the students, it was over iambic pentameter. Okay, so I would go through iambic pentameter. This was the one I showed you. I had it cut down to the 5 minutes at the beginning of the video where students had to vote. We went to Poll Everywhere. We briefly talked about syllables so that I knew students knew what syllables were as a quick refresher before getting into iambic pentameter. So I love to eat ice cream on Sundays, and we clapped our hands. Students guessed. If they guessed 10, they would get the monkey with the "what were you thinking?" wrong answer. If they got it right, they got the great job correct. And then briefly went over some terms, and we had it on the smartboard. So when I talked about a foot being 2 syllables together, we could go through and draw a line after every foot, the cow, and then draw our line right here. So that was also very interactive with the students. And then continued to go through iambic pentameter. We watched another video on understanding metric verse. Continued with some more where we could use the smartboard and interact with it. We finished up the hip hop video that I started with, and watched one last one that finally connected iambic pentameter and Romeo and Juliet. And then later on, students had the Poll Everywhere quiz. As far as prior skills, students needed knowledge of texting. If they didn't have this, which all of my students did, it would have been very easy to show them how to text. Students also needed to bring their cellular devices to class. They needed to know this ahead of time, so it was something that I had to have planned. Students needed to participate in class through the use of Poll Everywhere. They needed to partake in assessment using Poll Everywhere at the end of the lesson. And then again, when provided, they had to provide a short quiz at the end of their lesson during their presentations about a Shakespearean topic. Procedure that was followed. Verbally explain on the Poll Everywhere. I went through and I verbally explained that this was the phone number that the students had to send it to. They were confused by all these numbers. And then I explained that these numbers were the actual voting, Shakespeare, hip hop. I actually had to go over that a few times. They were very confused by all of those numbers. So be very clear on that. Maybe even give a handout where each thing is circled and labeled for the students who write it right on the smart board. Another way would be to model this through a screencast, especially when we get to the part where they have to create their own poll. And kind of like I'm doing with you guys, or provide a step-by-step written instruction packet for them. I could also do this when the students log on to do their own poll. They could be logged on a computer, and then I could be on the smartboard with my computer showing them how to do each step and having them do it as we go along. I could give them a practice assignment to create a poll, call me over, show it to me, and then actually get started on their very own. Overall, it's a fairly easy website to use. Students had no problem at all navigating through this. Then back to the PowerPoint I created for you guys. Disadvantages of the project. The biggest disadvantages were that the students had to be responsible for bringing their own cellular device for the day. If students forgot it, then you didn't have the type of participation you wanted. Which in this case, I still made students participate. They just had to write it down or raise their hand. We still voted. And also having service, depending on where you're located in the building as far as classroom, do the students have service? Could you maybe get a lab checked out for the day? So if cell phones aren't working, you still have the computer to rely on, or a mobile lab that you can bring into your classroom. Those are some of the things that needed to be considered and could possibly be disadvantages if not considered ahead of time. Advantages of the project: students were very, very active learners throughout the lesson. They could share opinions based on their background knowledge. A lot of my students have a lot of background knowledge on rap. So there was a lot of discussion in my classroom. They could see what their peers thought about a topic. It was all displayed right there. They could also draw connections from Shakespeare's time to modern day music and artists and be more active members of the class. During this, many students who did not normally participate in class discussion participated in this and were very happy to participate. They didn't feel judged at all. Also, with advantages, I did want to point out that it kind of targeted many different types of learners. Students could take notes, so they were writing. They had the visual PowerPoint. They had the video clips. They had the music to listen to. They were raising their hands. They were walking up to the smartboard. They were sending text messages. They're very, very active learners in many different ways. Effective instructional strategies, the entire class could participate at very low stakes. Every student had a say, but they didn't have to worry about what their classmates thought. And what I just talked about, all three learning styles were present. As far as being transferable in education, it is very easily transferred to other teachers and subject areas. I think it's a great idea for teachers to use in order to provide instant feedback on the lesson for both them and the students. Teachers can reteach before the unit test based on the results. I do think, however, though, it can't be transferred to the really lower elementary levels because there's not the cell phone usage, and I think it's too much to do in a lab. Upper L, you could get a lab. Some students have cell phones, some have the computers then. But at the high school level where all of my students have cell phones, it was very, very easy to use in class, and I think could be transferred across all levels of technology, or all levels of high school. And that's pretty much all I have for you. And then the next video will go over my next technology tool, which was my story, my life using Photo Story.